Sugandhim pushtivartanam Urvarukamiva bandhanam Mrityormukshiyamamritat.
Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Namaste. Welcome to episode 14 of the podcast, in which we are going to talk about preparing for fall. So there's a couple complexities that we have to navigate when we do talk about Rutucharya or seasonal routines. The first complexity is the difference between the Indian 6 seasons described in the classical texts and the typical 4 seasons that we experience in many of our climates here outside of the subtropics. Of course, the other thing we have to navigate is climate change, because with climate change, the seasons are falling into disorder. And it's hard to know what to expect. I just read on Bouldercast is a wonderful forecast account that I follow on Twitter, and they just said, well, it's hardly ever over 90 in this part of Colorado, and right now, in the middle of August, we're looking at 7 more weeks of 90-degree temperatures, and I nearly fell through the floor, thinking on the one hand how completely unbearable that was for me as a pitta, and on the other hand that we might get more tomatoes, more zucchinis, and more basil. So we'll see. It's hard to know what to expect. Oberon and Titania, the fairy king and the fairy queen, have quarreled. The masculine and the feminine are at war. In our over-masculine lust for conquest of Earth's resources and our burning of fossil fuels, we are destroying the climate, and Shakespeare foresaw all this. So in Midsummer Night's Dream, the fairy queen Titania says, and through this distemperature, we see the seasons alter. Hoary-headed frosts fall in the fresh lap of the crimson rose, and on old Heme's thin and icy crown an odorous chaplet of sweet summer buds is, as in mockery, set. The spring, the summer, the childing autumn, angry winter change their wonted liveries, and the mazed world by their increase now knows not which is which. And this same progeny of evils, Oberon, she's saying, comes from our debate, from our dissension. We are their parents and original because of the war that we have set up as humans between the masculine and the feminine. We're experiencing the progeny of evils, and season-wise, we know not which is which really does make Rutucharya or seasonal routines quite difficult. If you want to know more of the teachings about the masculine, and the feminine and how they unfold in the different ages, make sure you listen to episode 2, The Mother's Awakening in the Age of Aquarius. So, dealing with these two things, the difference between our 4-season climate and India's 6-season climate, and the changing of the climate, the altering of the seasons, where hoary headed frosts fall in the fresh lap of the crimson rose. So, having said which, and I'm recording this towards the end of August, but it'll be coming out right at the beginning, supposedly, of autumn, in the middle of September, in the month of Ashvin. So the two Hindu months of Ashvin and Kartik run from mid-September to mid-November, and that makes up the Sharad Ritu, or the autumn season. So that is officially what we're coming into. Heaven knows what we'll actually come into. I remember one dreadful day here in Colorado. We can go from the temperatures can be as different in one day as they are between summer and winter in the UK. And I remember one dreadful day when it's nice and sunny and 70, and I keep insisting it's going to freeze tonight. It's going to freeze tonight. No, it's not going to freeze tonight. It says it's going to freeze tonight, and we have the best harvest of winter squash we ever had, and they freeze. The temperature dropped from 75 to 15. Oh, so that's the way it goes in Colorado sometimes. So in the bigger picture, there are 3 ritus, or 3 seasons, that begin with monsoon, Varsha, the rainy season. And these 3 seasons, the Varsha, the Sharat, and the Hemanta, the monsoon, the autumn, and the early part of winter, those form the Dakshinavana, the southerly journey of the sun. So for those of us in the northern hemisphere, this is the period in which the sun releases the strength of the people. The moon is more powerful and the sun loses his strength. The earth becomes cooled of the heat of sunlight by the effects of clouds, rain, and cold wind. And the unctuous tastes, the tastes that have an oily property, sour, salty, and sweet, are powerful respectively during this period. So the sour taste comes into its own during the monsoon season. The lavana, or the salty taste, comes into its own now as we get into the fall, and the madhura, or the sweet taste, will come into its own as we get into winter. So this overall is a building season. The strength that we lost in the depth of winter, in the spring, and in the hot season, during the northerly journey of the sun, as the sun is said to be sucking out our strength and our energy. Now, as the sun gets calmed down during his southerly journey, this is the time when we rebuild our strength. Well, one thing that we have to think about is that all change does provoke vata, none more so than the change to summer, from summer to autumn. You've got the leaves drying and blowing off the trees. I wanted to talk about equinoctial gales, but when I looked them up, they're not a real thing. We just imagine there are gales during the equinox, so I better not talk about equinoctial gales. Although I grew up with that idea. One day you're basking in the sun, and the next you have to light the stove. It's always a big shock, and it usually comes around some of the Jewish festivals, the Feast of Tabernacles, when we actually um, build a little hut in the back garden and go and eat in it and sleep in it and see the stars through it. And it's kind of a harvest festival. And that's very often the time when one day you're out picking the basil and having your nice pasta with your pesto. The next day, bam, that whole summer garden is gone. And you are shivering, you are turning on the heat, and it's a real shock to Vata, especially for our Vatas, but it's a real shock to everyone's Vata. So that's kind of why we want to think about taking care of Vata during the fall. But it's been very interesting to me that the texts of Ayurveda have a different emphasis. What they really talk about is the need to release the old pitta that has built up during the hot season and the monsoon. So, like I was saying, that's where the challenge comes in. We may or may not have a monsoon season. In Britain, we had a saying about St. Swithin's Day. If it rains on St. Swithin's Day, it's going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. It means it's going to be a monsoonal year, and it's going to rain and rain and rain and rain and rain, and your holiday will be wrecked, and it'll rain and rain. But if it doesn't rain on St. Swithin's Day, you won't get a monsoon, and it won't rain. So that's the difficulty, is we might or might not have a monsoon, and with the climate change, it depends whether it's El Nino or La Nina. Like this year in Boulder, Colorado, we are undergoing exceptional drought. There has only been 4 days since I put the garden in that I haven't had to go and water the garden. Thank God we're still being allowed to water. So anyway, the old pitta builds up during the hot season. If there is a monsoon, it's a kind of a funny season because it's cloudy and it seems like it's cooled down. But I remember when I was very first in India, and I was in Pune, staying at Krista Premaseva Ashram with the nuns who wore saris and were faithful to Indian traditions. And I'm setting off to go somewhere, and Sister Archana says, "You're going out in that hot sun?" To me, I didn't think there was hot sun because it was cloudy. But she explained to me that monsoon or not, and whether there were clouds over the sun or not, it's hot sun. And you still need to rest during the siesta time and not go out. So monsoon is a kind of a tricky season when you do have it because it's hot, although it's cloudy, everything's damp. During monsoon, even as a sadhvi, normally I only have 2 saris, but in monsoon I had to have 3 because your sari won't dry in a day. So you actually have to have 3 saris, and somewhere, if you're sleeping in a burning ghat or a graveyard, you have to find somewhere for your sari to dry. You can't really sleep in a burning ghat during rainy season. Actually, you have to find an ashram or a place to stay during the rainy season. So because of this intensity of the monsoon season, the July-August time of year, whether with the rains and the thunder and the lightning, but the heat, the pitta had already built up during the hot part of summer. It continues to build up and build up during the rainy season. As a result, when the clouds go away and the autumn comes, the pitta gets very, very aggravated. So there is a really specific recipe that we're supposed to use, at this season, it is called Tikta Grita. It is a ghee that is medicated with all kinds of bitter herbs, and that recipe is spelled out in the text of Ayurveda. And we are supposed to take that special bitter ghee uh, in the autumn. I've really noticed it in my many years of clinic that people are kind of doing okay. And then as the hot season ends, the rainy season, if we had one, ends, and the autumn comes in, I start to see pitta blocking vata or vata pushing pitta. I start to see the doshas getting really muddled up and disorderly because of this exact phenomenon. And then I know, oh, we need to go to the Tikta ghee. We do make Tikta ghee in our pharmacy here because it's so important. So, what the texts say that we should eat in the fall is actually foods of the tastes that balance pitta, so bitter, sweet, and astringent tastes. Those are the tastes for pitta. And also that we want to focus on easily digestible foods. It's not like winter. It's not like being able to have a big Christmas dinner or something. We shouldn't be having such heavy meals, and we should be focusing on foods that are easy to digest, like rice and mung beans. So khichdi. Lots of great khichdi recipes on our website if you want to see what to make. A lot of variety of different khichdi's with different spices and different vegetables added in, but they all have the basic component of rice and mung, split yellow mung beans. This is also a time to indulge the sweet taste a little bit with some raw sugar. And then an important herb is dhatri or amlaki. That's one of the three herbs that make up triphala. If you've heard of triphala, it's called dhatri, meaning the wet nurse, the one who nurtures our health. And amlaki is cooling. It's possessed of five of the six tastes. The taste that it doesn't have is the salty taste because it's not a seaweed, it's a herb. But its predominant taste is sour. Oh, that's usually a taste that's not a good friend for pitta. But amlaki has a sour taste and a sweet post-digestive effect and is absolutely pitta's kindest and best friend. Also, honey. This is a really good time to take honey. This is when the fresh honey is getting collected from the hives. And if you want to eat meat, you eat meat of animals of desert-like lands, meat of animals from places without trees, from the Bangladesh. That would be like hunting season and having some venison and some elk and some animals from those dry, deserty lands. And there's a special way that we take our water during this fall season, as it's laid out in the texts. And the text I'm really referring to is called Ashtanga Hridaya, the heart essence of the eight limbs of Ayurveda by Vagbhat. Uh, we want to solarize and lunarize our water. So take some nice spring water. Here love to use El Dorado spring water. It is so delicious. Put it in a sun tea jar. You can put it outside or in a window so that it will be solarized by day and lunarized by night, and do that for many days on end. It needs to be pure water. And this water is supposed to mitigate all of the wastes in your body, cleanse your body, and it is known as Hamzadaka, the swan like water. That water will not block your channels, nor will it have a dry. You know how sometimes you can drink water and it's too astringent, and the more you drink it, the drier you feel. You won't get that from this Hamzadaka. This water is Amrita. This water is nectar. So solarize and lunarize your water in the fall and make that Hamzadaka. Well, we're just now, like I said, I'm recording this a little ahead of when it drops. I'm recording this in latish August, and we've just been enjoying a supermoon. So the advice is to spend your evenings on the terrace and adorn yourself with sandalwood paste, or put some vetiver essential oil and some nice white clothes, and get out and enjoy the moonlight. Honestly, I didn't wait for fall to do that. I've been doing this all summer long. I've been going out for what I call an air bath, and I've been going out in the garden and sitting on a little chair in the garden and doing my malas, doing my japa, sitting outside. Of course, I'm a pitta, so I have to combine two things at once. I have to combine getting an air bath and getting my mala done at one and the same. But it's been a very special experience this year. And I plan to keep on doing it as long as it's warm enough. You never know in Colorado, we're at quite a bit of elevation. So you might be better off if you're listening from somewhere else. But if it's not too chilly, sit outside and enjoy the moonlight. What are some of the things we should avoid doing in the fall? We should avoid uh, getting exposed to the snow. Uh, don't eat big, heavy meals. It's also a time where we're not supposed to use a lot of yogurt or a lot of oil. We're supposed to not use things which have channel blocking properties. We can look into that more maybe another time, because yogurt itself is quite heavy. We rarely have more than like a spoonful of yogurt as like a side with our khichdi and our sabji or bitter goods. But if you do take that yogurt and blend it with water and season it, say, with cumin, pepper, nutmeg, then it won't be channel blocking, and then you can still have it. Um, don't get out too much in the hot autumn sun. Don't drink strong liquor. Avoid sleeping in the day. Don't, these are all things we want to avoid that are blocking our channels, because this massive change from the hot to the cold time of year is going to tend to make us build up armor. Our channels can easily get blocked. So we want to have this light and soothing routine. So how do we prepare ourselves? As we talked about earlier, there's a very vata property to sudden change. So we do want to prepare for fall by calming vata. That means having regular routines. If you were off on your vacations or your holidays, you probably got out of all your routines. My patients always come in after summer holidays and say, I fell off the wagon. They didn't do anything, and we have to start again. So it's time to come back to our regular routines. We can do our abhyanga. our oil massage, especially with medicated vata soothing oils like ashwagandha thailam or ashwagandha bala thailam. It can be nice to do svedan or sweating if it's not too hot. If it's still really hot, we can't afford to do svedan. Just put on the oil if you can handle that and have a warm shower for as long as you can take it. But if it does start to cool down, oiling and sweating, that is the best way to calm your vata. It's time to transition gradually to warming and building foods. And from all we've been talking about, you might be able to see that we need to keep a vata soothing regularity, but we actually follow the pitta soothing taste. So don't go too much with the sour and salty. Those tastes are already predominant at this time. Go with the sweet, bitter, and astringent taste. Of course, as fall comes in, the foods you get in your garden or from your CSA or at your farmer's market do shift. We start to see the winter squash right now. Our winter squash are just like would be winter squashes, little round thingies that hopefully, if it doesn't freeze too early, are going to be winter squashes. But as fall comes, we do start to see winter squashes, and they're perfect. They are abundant in the sweet and astringent taste. We can bake them, we can put them in our kitchery, we can put them in soups. Just delicious. And we also get our grounding root vegetables now, like carrots, beets, and turnips. So as the weather starts to cool, focus on soups, vata and pitta soothing soups. The mere existence of it being a soup means it's going to cool your vata because it's liquid, it's hopefully sufficiently oily. You can put some olive oil in your soup and it's going to be smooth, it's going to be warm, but the soup should use pitta soothing tastes like a winter squash soup, pitta soothing soups. Another thing we have to think about is the Ritu Sandhi, and that is the time of transition. As we come out of the monsoon season, whether or not we got a monsoon, we've, right here in Boulder with the extreme drought, we're just praying for a little bit of rain here and there, but there was that notorious September where we had the flood. So you never know. But as we're going into the transition from one season to another, things can go up and down. It can be hot one day and freeze the next. Of course, for a gardener, that's very annoying. Your whole garden freezes, you have to pick all the green tomatoes, and then it warms up again to tomato ripening heat for another 3 weeks. Grrr. But this up and down is difficult for the body. So if you are coming to clinic and getting your formulas, at this time, we'd like you to have both your cooling summer formula and your warmer autumn formula. Have them both available so you can pick and choose. Oh, hot today, I'll use my summer formula. Oh my goodness, it's going to freeze. I better use my fall formula today. So you can literally hop back and forth between your two formulas, or you can change what we call the anupan, the substance that you take your herbs with. Honey if you want to feel warmer, aloe vera if you want to feel cooler, warm water if you just want to be neutral. Also, with our diet, we slowly, over the course of a couple of weeks, slowly shift from that summer diet with all those fresh fruits and cucumber salads and cooling foods, slowly shifting into that fall diet with the squash soups and the root vegetables. We don't just change suddenly. Ayurveda never likes us to make really sudden changes. We make a gradual change slowly phasing in those fall foods, gradually phasing out those summer foods. Let's talk about one other aspect, and that is your fall panchakarma. Coming into clinic to get sorted for your fall panchakarma. This is a perfect time to settle vata before the onset of winter. But the reality is, what we're doing, because we're contending with a climate that is not a subtropical climate, we're really combining the monsoon and the fall cleanses together when we do our fall cleanse. So in the monsoon season, we can't do it here because it's too hot in our monsoon. We're actually recommended to do emesis, vamana, and purgation, virechana, and then calming vata with decoction enema, vasti. And then in the section on fall or autumn, on the Sharad season, it also recommends cleansing, but really emphasizing pitta, really emphasizing purgation, and also emphasizing the rakta or the blood. So, literally saying that we should do bloodletting. Of course, here we can't use leeches like they do in India. I used to suggest people go donate blood, and I don't do that anymore because the amount of blood they take for a blood donation is way more than a leech is going to take. So it's actually going to work out well enough if you can just time, if you need any blood tests, if you can just time your blood test for after your fall panchakarma, that'll be absolutely perfect. It'll just pull out enough blood to get your body to feel cleansed and rejuvenated. And remember, uh, we can also give you blood cleansing herbs, which is another way of doing blood cleaning. But definitely a good idea if you're able to do some kind of fall cleanse to get prepared for the winter. So there we go. Challenges being the seasons have altered, and our 4 season climate is different than India's 6 season climate. Remembering that all change provokes vata, but none more so than the change from summer to autumn. And so we need to calm vata, but we also need to release the old pitta that is built up during the hot season and the monsoon. We need to make use of the pitta soothing tastes, sweet, bitter, and astringent, as we transition to vata soothing foods like soups and root vegetables. There you go. Have a happy fall. Namaste.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe sugandhim pushtivadano